Three, two, one. Hello, everybody. This is Renegade Rousey, and this is the Left Hook Boxing Show, and it's good to be with you. I got an email today from Adrian Osala. Hope I pronounced that right. And he was asking about my comments on the Amir Khan Paulie Malignaggi fight, and I'm sorry I hadn't posted those comments, but I'm going to talk about that today. A great fight, and also a couple other programming notes before we get started on Amir Khan. Tapas Bai was asking about the Klitschko-Hay fight. I definitely have some thoughts about that. I want to plan on getting that posted soon. And then Paulo Cortez was asking about the Mayweather-Manny Pacquiao fight, and I definitely have some thoughts on that fight, and I want that fight, and we want that fight, and we're going to make it happen. But now, on to Amir Khan. I thought that was just a brilliant performance by him on Saturday night. I mean, you know, he kind of reminds me kind of like the Paul Williams effect. I mean, he's tall, slender, and lanky, but he used his physical abilities to his advantage. He constantly was keeping Malignaggi off balance with that jab. He set the distance in that fight. He had the physical ability to do it, and he used that physical ability that he had, that advantage that he had, to perfection. Anytime Paulie Malignaggi would try and close the distance, Amir Khan would boom, just stick him with the jab, and Malignaggi constantly snapped, and seeing his head snap back with that jab, it was as if Amir Khan said, "Hey baby, this is my territory and enter it at your own risk." And he constantly was frustrating him with that jab, and that was setting up his power punches, and I thought he used that just to a great advantage. Next, you know, the talk about Khan has been about his chin. And, you know, he had that one knockout in the first round where he got leveled. And, you know, so he played to his strengths, right, with his physical abilities, but he also protected his weakness. I mean, you constantly saw him with his hands up. And, you know, he would throw his punches, and he'd come right back to having those fists high to protect himself from any kind of power shots. Now, of course, there was talk that they handpicked Malignaggi because he's not known for his power. But still, nonetheless, Amir Khan is just, you can tell that he's worked hard at his weakness, and he's made it a strength by protecting himself. And you can give him a lot of credit for it, for being a good student. And you also, of course, give Freddie Roach a lot of credit, because you can tell he has worked with this fighter and brought him along and advanced him in a great way. And speaking of being a good student, you know, you can just tell. I thought it was very telling. I love it when HBO, when they cut to the corner during the fights. And I think it's a very telling moment in the fight when they do that. And you saw Amir Khan sitting in there all relaxed. And Freddie Roach, you know, he does the same thing to all his fighters. Just kind of rubs that Vaseline across the nose. And he really doesn't say a whole lot, because I'm telling you, Freddie Roach wins his fights in the wild card gym. He wins them by preparing his fighters for the fight, looking at film, knowing the tendencies of the other fighter, and making his game plan for his fighter to attack those weaknesses. And you could see it just to perfection. But when they go to the corner, you know, Khan is just sitting there all relaxed, and, you know, Roach just gives him just a little instruction. "Hey, I want you, you're looking brilliant out there, but I want you to go with the fade and then come to the body." And then that round, he does exactly right. What he's told. He follows instruction, a clear student of the sport of boxing, of the sweet science, technically proficient, and it was just pretty nice to watch. I'm kind of a fan of the all-out wars, but you gotta give credit where credit is due to a person who just performs flawlessly with the sweet science, and I think Amir Khan did that on this day when he fought Malignaggi. But then, you look at Malignaggi and you go to his corner, totally different story. His trainer saying, "Hey, Paulie, where you at? Come on, get with me. Look at me, look at me, look at me." He had lost his focus, where Amir Khan was totally focused. And it just goes to the thing of boxing that I love. One of the things I love, both fighters go into this fight and they're very confident. You can see when they have the weigh-in, they kind of got tussled in there. And that's kind of evident to me that both fighters were very confident that they could impose their will on the other fighter. But it's so interesting to see when the fight actually takes place, how one fighter is in a lot of ways able to break down the other fighter's confidence. And you could tell by looking at the corner that this was happening to Malignaggi. And he talked about it after the fight. He just could not close the distance because, again, every time he did, boom, the jab in the face would snap back. Malignaggi had, 2 previous fights with Juan Diaz. Diaz is not, known for his speed. And Malignaggi tried to fight the same way with his hands down a lot of times. And Amir Khan punished him with that speed. I mean, he's got the speed. If you're going to keep your hands down with him, boom, he's going to make you pay for it. And he did on this night. The other thing about Khan that I like is just the hunger. And Malignaggi talked about that, and you can sense that in the ring that Amir Khan is hungry. And when you're going to be the best in the junior welterweight division, or any division for that matter, the hunger, the desire, if you want to be the best and you want to fight the best and you want to beat the best, you got to be hungry. You got to want it somewhere deep inside, and you can sense that Amir Khan wants it. Another telling part of the fight, or the after fight, he's interviewing with Max Kellerman, and of course, like Kellerman and all announcers want to know after a fighter has defeated somebody, okay, who do you want next? And the typical response that you get is, well, I'm going to leave that up to my promoter, and we'll see what he has to say about it. And that's okay. I mean, that's the way it is. But did Amir Khan say that? No. He says, bring on Madonna. Now, Madonna is like the polar opposite to Malignaggi. I mean, he's a power puncher, and he, to me, would be perceived as a big threat to Amir Khan because of the question that's been raised about his chin. But is Amir Khan afraid of him? I don't think so. He calls him out in the ring and says, I want him. And then the 2 other great fighters in the junior welterweight division, Tim Bradley and Devin Alexander, he says, hey, you 2 guys fight, and we'll meet. The winner of that fight, we'll meet afterwards, and we'll settle this thing. So here you have a fighter that is trained with a great trainer and has lifted his confidence to a high level. And he's very confident going in, and he's not afraid to mix it up with a big power puncher like Maidana. And Maidana packs a big punch. But Khan, I believe, feels confident in his ability to keep that distance and be able to win that fight. We'll see what happens, but you got to love his confidence. And I was thoroughly impressed with Amir Khan, and I look forward to see him fight again, and I look forward to see Bradley and Devin Alexander mix it up as well. We got a lot of good fights coming up here. We got, of course, the Marquez-Vasquez fight coming up. I hope to have something to say about that after the fight, and I hope it's as good as the previous 3 fights have been. But we'll see what happens. For now, this is Renegade Rousey, and I'm out.